Hi Curious! So with season 4 of the hit Netflix show The Crown dropping November 15th on the streaming side, it is safe to say that many people are very much excited for the continuation of the story of the most talked about and beloved royal families in the world. And what's not to love? We're getting a somewhat inside glimpse into the lives of the family, we get to learn all the secrets and find out how they reacted to things that have happened to them privately and in the history of not only Britain but also the world. And obviously, looking at the story of the British monarch, there are a lot of things that we're waiting to see and to see how they will be portrayed. But how well are they showed in a Netflix production? Are there any controversies or major events that have been left out? Is there anything the royal family can be worried about the show portraying? And do any members of the actual royal family watch the show and what do they think about it? If you want to find out what the actual Queen thinks about the show, then be sure to watch until the very end. But before we continue, don't forget to hit the bell and subscription buttons so you don't miss any of our videos. The Crown is one of Netflix's most popular shows and no surprise there. The British monarchs are always portrayed as being so regal and proper, so having a show that delves into their personal lives and one that shows that despite all they are still very human is very interesting. Especially since we get a glimpse into the life of the Queen from her marriage to Prince Philip to her coronation, and with season 3 ending while the Queen celebrates her silver jubilee, I mean as much as a glimpse we can get, that is. Also a warning for anyone who is not up to date with season 3, there might be some spoilers. While the lives of the royals have been obviously well documented throughout history, especially in modern times thanks to tabloids and newspapers, however, while we know what happened when, we don't really know exactly how it happened and how the people involved had reacted. Sadly, we can't stick a camera in Buckingham Palace and live stream everything and make it a royal Big Brother, although there's an idea. With things like that, we just cannot know. For example, what Prince Philip would say to the Queen in the morning when they wake up, you know, that kind of thing. Even Josh O'Connor, who plays Prince Charles in the show, has said in an interview that they are creating a work of fiction, albeit based in some reality. He also added that ultimately there is only so much research people can do. There are several things throughout the show that are either dramatized for the sake of production or chances are that they haven't happened at all. One of those would be an interview that Princess Alice, Philip's mother, had done for The Guardian. She herself is a fascinating person, having lived in exile twice, became a nun, but on the show, she was the saving grace of the Windsors after an ill-received BBC documentary aired. In a Netflix series, it is said that a reporter from The Guardian, John Armstrong, was offered an interview of Princess Anne, who then managed to trick him into doing one with Alice instead. And after learning of her noble struggles, he wrote a glowing profile of the little-known royal. But the reality is that this is where the show delved more into the fiction side of things. It is true that a BBC documentary was made, but it did not get a damning review in the papers. And Princess Alice wasn't widely praised by the media during her final years, because during her final years at Buckingham Palace, she'd been largely forgotten about by the public. Even her biographer Hugo Wickers had stated, "By the end of her life, the general public scarcely remembered that she was alive." And what about you, Curious? Were you aware of the story of Prince Philip's mother before watching the show? And speaking of the Queen's husband, another part that has been most likely fabricated was his refusal to kneel to the Queen. The show version of Philip was unhappy at having to leave the Navy when Princess Elizabeth became the ruler of the country, and he did not want to kneel before her at the coronation in 1953. In one scene when they were arguing about the ceremony, he angrily asks his wife to make an exception for him so he does not have to kneel. While this did make a dramatic moment in the show, it is highly unlikely that something like this actually happened in real life. Prince Philip came from the Greek royal family, so he was obviously more than aware of the protocols that he had to follow. Speaking to the Daily Mail, royal biographer Christopher Wilson added that he would have very well known what was expected of him in public and was prepared to go along with it. The show, which until now consisted of 3 seasons, each with 10 episodes, had to pack in many years of headlines and scandals into a short amount of time, so naturally, certain things would end up being left out. However, fans of the program weren't very happy at the fact that a few important parts of Princess Anne's life were left out, and many claimed that these would have served as fantastic story arcs. One of the main ones being a pretty big deal, would be the attempted kidnapping of the Queen's only daughter. Oh yes, back in March 1974, 23-year-old Princess Anne and her then husband Mark Phillips were returning back to Buckingham Palace when their car was made to stop and Ian Bull had come out of another vehicle, attacked several people including members of the Princess security team, her chauffeur, as well as a passing-by journalist who tried to help. He then approached Anne's car and he intended to kidnap her for ransom. How do you think she reacted when he had asked her to get out of the car? Well, her reaction was pretty incredible as she responded with, "Not bloody likely." Let me remind you that at the time she was 23 years old and the kidnapper was armed. Do you agree that this would have made for an interesting scene in the show? But it's easy to imagine that with all the rumors of affairs and those storylines, that the producers had to fit in there, it would make sense for certain things to be left out. And a certain storyline and the theme had raised some eyebrows. In the third season, the plot seemed to hint that the Queen might have had an affair with her horse racing manager. Now I guess you're probably wondering what this is about. Surely, if the Queen had been unfaithful, word would have gotten out and it would public knowledge like it was in the case of her son Charles. The Lord of Porchester, whom his friends called Porchy, had a rich friendship with the Queen that most likely was based off their shared love of horses. Now while the gossip about their romance is nothing new, they have been around for a long time as the two would attend events together, most often horse racing ones. However, the show seems to try and suggest that there might have been more to it. One of the episodes shows the pair are spending a month together visiting stud farms in France and America. Later in the show, Prince Philip is suspicious and interrogates his wife once she returns to Buckingham Palace, and this didn't sit too well with some people. The monarch's former press secretary, Dickie Arbiter, dismissed the suggestion, saying, "This is very distasteful and totally unfounded." Speaking of the time, he also added that the Queen is the last person in the world who would have considered another man. But how would the Queen feel about the show? Well, the actress Vanessa Kirby, who plays Princess Margaret, said that she met someone with some insider information which came from a royal. Speaking of Harper Bazaar, she said that a friend of hers was at a party where he didn't know anyone, so he decided to join a group of people who were talking about the crown. The actress revealed that one girl said, "Well, my granny watches it and really likes it." She added that it was only much later that it dawned on him that the girl in question was Princess Eugenie, which would mean that her granny was the Queen. So, you know your show must be good if even the monarch of the country watches it. That being said, she did have some negative views about it too. The second season heavily focuses on young Charles's difficult school years at a boarding school, and it was a scene in that plot that reportedly struck a nerve. A senior courtier told Express.co.uk that she wasn't very keen on the harsh portrayal of her husband Philip as a father. The courtier explained that the depiction of the Duke of Edinburgh as being insensitive to his son's well-being was not true and that it simply did not happen. Matt Smith, who played Prince Philip, had also revealed that a friend of his had an encounter with him, and when he asked whether the Queen's husband had watched the show, the Duke replied, "Don't be ridiculous." Well, I guess we can assume that for him having lived through those events was enough, so he doesn't need a recap. Or maybe he just doesn't want to admit to it. What do you think, Curious? But now, with season 4 introducing Diana, we are truly getting to the most talked about scandals of the royal family. Charles's marriage to Diana, his affair with Camilla, and of course, the tragic accident that took Lady Di's life. For the 4th season, the role of the Queen of People's Hearts will be played by Emma Corrin, and in season 5 and 6, the role will be taken over by Elizabeth Debicki. Originally, the show was supposed to have finished after the 5th season, but in January this year, the producers have announced that to give justice to the richness of the story, they will go back to their original plan of having 6 seasons. At the moment, it is unclear at what part of the season they will play out Diana's passing. Given that Debicki has been signed onto the 6th season, could mean that it will happen at some point during its airing, though it is not known whether it would have been at the start and they will show the aftermath of it through the rest of the series, or it would be more towards the end, and that is what they would end the show with. The producers have stated before that the show will end in the 2000s, and it will not catch up with the royal family as it is today, though it is interesting to look at the things they could possibly end the show with. Many people are speculating that at the end of the show could be with Diana's funeral, though if that is concerned, fans are wondering how much liberty the creators are at when Lady Di is concerned. As many are aware, the circumstances surrounding her passing are widely discussed and are the talks of conspiracy theories. Due to that, it will be interesting to see how much liberty the producers will take and whether they will remain objective in the case, or will it be like the 2006 movie The Queen, which starred Helen Mirren, that showed the entire story from how the monarch and the royal family reacted to the news. And as I mentioned this film, it is worth noting that Peter Morgan, who wrote the screenplay for it, is a creator and executive producer of The Crown. And while fans are waiting to see how that will play out in the show, let's go back to the question of at what point the show will end. Lady Diana had passed away in 1997, and if the producers are saying that the show will go on into the 2000s, it begs the question of what the cut-off point will be. It ending in 2002 would also make sense, as that was the year that Princess Margaret and Queen Elizabeth, the current monarch's mother, had passed away. Since the show revolves a lot around Elizabeth and Margaret's relationship, it would make sense for the producers to include their funerals too. But on the other hand, season 3 also introduced the start of Charles and Camilla's relationship, how the two of them have met, and Charles beginning to fall for his future wife-to-be. So, if it's supposed to end in the 2000s, it could also go as far as 2005 when the two of them married. However, to find that out, we'll have to wait and see until either the producers decide to tell us something or to wait for the 6th season to air. So curious, what do you think about The Crown? Have you seen the show yet? What do you think of the casting choices? At what point do you reckon they will stop? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next video.